Join me as we talk all things true crime.
Made contact and shattered.
The missing 4-year-old. The parents have called me and advised that the mother has went through a wall, came home, now they can't find her.
Chad, where are Lori's kids? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say?
4 were stabbed multiple times and were likely asleep during the attack. Some had defensive wounds.
Most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound.
Oh, what a tangled web we weave. Once I told a lie, and I told my family, I had to keep lying.
McSherman is a demon.
We haven't cleared anybody.
Hey everybody, thanks for being here. We are going to discuss a mistrial verdict that came back from the Karen Read trial from the jury. We don't know how many jurors were torn, like how many were saying guilty, how many were saying not guilty. Mods, just let me know if you guys can hear me. Hi, Melly. Roro, Sherry's here. Carol freaking Claus. Hey, guys. Pointer lover. So, okay, thank you for letting me know. The purple one is here. Sound is good, guys. So everyone wants to know what's next, what's next, what's next. But it seems like, hey, Tony, seems like nobody is really wanting to know, like, what really happened to John O'Keefe. Who killed John O'Keefe? Will we get justice for John? And also, you know, for those who think that Karen did it, you know, how do you feel like about this mistrial? Hey, EE Caroline, good to see you. So we're just going to cover some things today. Let's start off with, let me share my screen. There was some topics on the thumbnail. This one we'll start with first. This was posted on Twitter. I just noticed the name of the Twitter account that posted it. Paul O'Keefe threatening Karen Read as she leaves court. She claps right back at him. O'Keefe will never accept the evidence. Emotional, just like some of the jurors. Emotion is not facts or evidence. Just wanted the girl to pay. Of course, that's their opinion, who's posting this. But it has made its rounds that he did say something along the lines of, not through with you, I'm not done with you, something along the lines of that to Karen. So, yeah, and whoever did kill John is walking free, scary and wild. It is. It absolutely is. So, you know, I'm going to play this video. And like they stated, you know, emotions were running high. The family was upset. His mother was crying. You know, this is very hard for a family to go through a trial. They go through all these weeks and it comes back as a mistrial. They're going to be retrying the case. That is what they've stated. Now, we've heard that it could be in the fall. I've heard people say December, but we will find out later this month when they have their own hearing. I believe the 22nd. And Purple one says, I can't believe it wasn't not guilty. I know. Roro agrees. Hit that like button also if you guys haven't done so. It's greatly appreciated. So let's see this. So this allegedly is where Paul says to Karen, I'm not through with you. Very quick. She's obviously pissed about it. See if I can even turn it down. So definitely mouth something to her. You can see it there. There's the officer right behind Karen, and she looks at Karen. She's like, did he really just say that? Look at. You really can't tell. Obviously, there's no sound, but, you know, something was said for the court officer right here behind her in the white. And for Karen to have that look on her face. And I understand, emotions are running high, but you can't be making threats like that to people. The jury came back with their decision. The decision was, we're torn. We don't know. Commonwealth didn't convince all 12 of us that she did this. I mean, remember that one line that Lally said? He straight up said to the judge at one point during this trial, okay, yes, it is the 22nd. Okay, July 22nd is when we will find out when the retrial is. In my opinion, that is a threat if he did state that, right? And all these people right here are witness. Even this guy with the glasses on his head turns right around. Sorry, just watching it again. So we will find, okay, so Lally said straight up to the judge, there is no evidence in this case. Something along those lines. It was so awkward. Have they offered her a plea deal? Melly Mel wants to know. I'm not sure, but I have heard that they're not taking one. I don't know if that's even 100% positive, but I have heard that through the grapevine that they're not interested in taking a plea deal. I'm not sure if one was laid out there for them or what. Okay, so that is the first thing on the thumbnail that I wanted to kind of show, discuss. Karen is obviously like, really, what the heck? I've heard he is a little bit unhinged. I mean, it's his brother's trial, it's hard to be critical, but at the same time, threats are not cool. I've also heard through the grapevine that Karen bailed him out of jail for his 2020 DUI. And I've seen the paperwork. It's a legit DUI that he had gotten. There was another car involved in some accident. You think Karen Read would take a deal if it was a good one, right? Like what type of deal are we working with possibly? Maybe they will stream up something that's better than what she's been given in the past. All right, guys. So this was something else, and it was on our dear friend Sleuthy Goosey's Twitter. She said, well, Trooper Michael Proctor's comment after the judge declared a mistrial today was, get the F off my lawn. His wife, Elizabeth Proctor, comment was, I fully support my husband. Karen Read is a murderer. I remind you, in September 2023, Jen McCabe had a meeting inside this house with at least Mrs. Proctor. And that was discovered during the trial. Of course, she claims that, oh, I was there with a friend who's friends with their daughter, and that's the only reason why we were there. So then I commented on this, since, his wife is saying that she fully supports her husband, even though he did really corrupt police work in this case and just no integrity, basically. I wrote, so she supports her husband looking for nudes on Karen's phone. That's nice. So let's watch this video. This is the news approaching the Proctor's house. This was after the mistrial was declared. Hey, Marshall Dove, good to see you. And Eli, hello. Jordan, hey everybody. Cindy, thanks for being here, everybody. Hit that thumbs up if you're joining a little bit late. Hi, Kathleen. Okay, so let's watch this. This is the media approaching them after the mistrial was announced. Let me just mute myself.
What was at his home in Canton this afternoon when the Karen Read case ended in a mistrial. We caught up with him just a few moments ago to ask him his thoughts on the outcome of the case. Trooper Proctor, Kathy Curran from NBC 10. We'd like to ask you some questions. Do you think your actions impacted the outcome of the trial?
Get off of our lawn.
I'm not on your lawn. I'm on the street. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
I fully support my husband. Karen Read is a murderer.
murderer. You support your husband? And you heard it there. His wife fully supports him and called Karen Read a murderer. What was at his home in Canton this afternoon when the Karen Read case ended in a mistrial. We caught up with him just a few moments ago to ask him his thoughts on the outcome of the case. Trooper Proctor, Kathy Curran from NBC 10. We'd like to ask you some questions. Do you think your actions impacted the outcome of the trial?
Get off of our lawn.
I'm not on your lawn. I'm on the street. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
I fully support my husband. Karen Read is a murderer.
You support your husband?
And again, that's where I say, okay, so you support your husband who was disappointed telling his friends that he didn't find any nudes on Karen's phone, but she supports her husband. So, you know, yeah, like Marshall Dove, class at its finest. Hey, Tim, good to see you. And now I'm curious, your guys' opinion. Do you think Trooper Proctor, his work that he did on this case, do you think that affected the outcome? I do personally. I think the jury saw him and was disgusted with everything they heard and saw. Since we're on the topic, let's switch up to another topic here. All right, so pretty much it's been reported, which was also on my thumbnail, Trooper Proctor fired with a question mark, because a lot of people kind of were getting ahead of themselves. He's fired. Yay. You know, why did it take so long? You know, he's fired. He's not fired. You can't just fire a state worker or, you know, even a federal worker. You know, there's loopholes. There's all this stuff you have to bounce through. Pointer Lover says, yes, his actions absolutely affected the outcome. Melly Mel says, yes. Roro, yes. Marshall Dove, yes. Sherry, yep. Yeah, I mean, how could it have not? And he has to live with that. Yes, and Proctor should be fired. Exactly. So he's going to have a hearing that will determine his outcome. So I will read the details a little bit on that midway through this. Oh, thank you, Bobby. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So let me just play this. Hold on. Here we go.
I'm bringing now Sean McDonough. He is a retired DEA supervisory special agent and creator of the YouTube channel Going Through the Motions. He has spent a year investigating the Read case and is convinced that she was railroaded by authorities. Sean, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. First of all, I want to get this breaking news. I want to get your reaction to it, what we just learned within the last 30 minutes or so about Michael Proctor, lead investigator, relieved of duty, internal affairs investigation. What do you make of this?
Well, Brian, first of all, thank you for having me on the show tonight. This was long overdue. The state police should have done this action well before this ever came to trial. They knew what was contained in his personal cell phone. They knew his personal cell phone was provided to the defense and the Commonwealth by the federal government, who was investigating the murder of John O'Keefe. This case should have never come to trial. And they were warned by the acting U.S. attorney, Josh Levy, to not bring this case to trial. So, but as far as Mr. Proctor being relieved, I'm happy he is. He's a bad trooper. It was the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen. I've spent 35 years in law enforcement. I have never seen any completely vile acts. And he only got caught because the FBI had his personal cell phone.
Yeah, it was obviously awful for the prosecution, Sean. I mean, some of the stuff that came out during the trial literally was jaw-dropping. And it's interesting, like you say, that the press release, it's almost like it was ready to go. It was written because right after the mistrial, same day, state police sends out this release. We've got an internal affairs investigation, relieved of duty. I also feel like the press release by the prosecution saying they were going to retry the case was also ready to go because that came out right away.
Now, see right here, the headline underneath says Trooper axed over serious misconduct. So hey, Melanie, he hasn't really been fired yet. So pretty much, let me just read a little bit of information on that. State police said the decision is separate from an ongoing internal investigation into the entire Read case. Proctor has been placed on leave, which means while he is technically on the force and being paid, so he's being paid right now, he is not allowed to function as a state trooper. He is still technically a trooper until his disciplinary hearing. That hearing can end in one of 4 ways. So once he goes to this hearing, everyone's, praying and hoping, like, let this guy go. Like, we need real, genuine cops who aren't going to carry out misconduct like we've seen firsthand from this guy. I mean, he was even on the stand saying he was embarrassed. He was like, oh, it was just a poor joke, blah, 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 like making excuses for it. And I seen, Jordan, you asked, will they retry it? They are planning to. They've stated that they will. And we're hearing, we don't know until the 22nd of this month for sure, but people are predicting in the fall this year or December. Yes, he's in the union. I've heard through, again, these are just rumors, but that he has a union lawyer already. So again, the hearing for his disciplinary hearing can end in one of 4 ways. So this is what's going to happen. He gets his job back. He could be suspended with pay. He could be suspended without pay. He could receive restricted duties. Proctor cannot be fired as a result of the hearing. It's the first step in the process that could lead to his eventual termination from the force. A date for the hearing has not been scheduled yet. So those are the options. So he's not technically fired, axed like this headline says underneath him, but he's facing a possibility of, being let go without leave or without pay. I'm sorry. So let me read those 4 options. He gets his job back. Hi, Valerie. So he gets his job back. He could be suspended with pay. He could be suspended without pay. He could receive restricted duties. So he cannot be fired as a result of the hearing, but it's the first step in the process that could lead to an eventual termination from the force. So we have some time before we can celebrate and be like, yes, they need to get rid of him. They're on their way. Hey, Johnny, and thank you for the tea for everybody in chat. And now E.E. Caroline said something earlier. Okay, so in reference to the media outside of Trooper Proctor's house and the wife saying, I fully support my husband. Karen Read is a murderer. She says, E.E. Caroline says, Karen Read is a murderer is slander. Absolutely, because right now she has not been, the evidence did not conclude that she murdered her boyfriend, John. And her husband is sure to have spent his life coming home whining about how much life sucks because he really has no aptitude for police work, it seems to me. I mean, he's just a bad egg, and he gives a lot of, thank you very much, Johnny, letting me know the sound is good and that you're listening. I hope you didn't have a rough day today. I know your back was hurting from building the deck and all that. Thank you, Carol Freaking Claus, for being a member for 10 months. Oh my gosh. Thank you. ATS, Beyond Love Your Channel. Awesome host. Thank you. And I appreciate you very much. Let's see. Yeah, it is total slander. Shay Benet is here. Hey, haven't seen you in a minute. Hope you're doing well. That, is very interesting because I haven't seen anybody point that out. I've seen that clip going around and around, and everyone's like, I can't believe this. And even myself, like, okay, so the wife wants to support him, even though the whole world knows that he was looking for nude photos. How embarrassing for her, too, He knows all the dirt on these officers, and there is always the risk he will get mad and turn back and talk. That's true. So you're thinking, Marshall, that he's not going to be let go? My husband would seriously be like, don't talk to anybody. Right. Just keep your mouth shut. Walk in the house. Don't say anything. Yeah, it's crazy. All right. So that's the topic over this. He's been axed. He's been fired. We can't really celebrate yet. his wife should stay quiet. Case is ongoing. Exactly. And like Vinnie Politan said today, Melly, it would be strange if the Commonwealth, when they retry this case, doesn't bring him back, because he's the lead investigator. He, gathered and found the evidence at the scene, the taillight and stuff like that. So we haven't heard the last of Proctor. We really have not.
John, according to the jury's note, though, this is interesting. We're getting a little bit of insight into what was going on inside that jury room. Jurors were starkly divided on the evidence. That's a quote, starkly divided, and talked about their, quote, convictions. Do you think some people could not believe the defense's theory that the police officers were framed? Because, yes, I mean, you're looking at this as a win for the defense, but technically really not. I mean, it's somewhere in the middle, right?
Exactly, Brian. Now, just remember, you said it completely tonight. 70 some odd witnesses were presented. Only six were put on by the defense. Their client was facing the possible, if a convicted, life sentence in jail, okay? They was able to conveniently put the prosecution on their heels from the get-go. And they were able to flip around the whole procedure on the Commonwealth by saying, my client, Yannetti said, my client, Karen Read, was framed. And what they did, they forced the Commonwealth to be on the defensive for 85% of their case in chief. And then when it was all done, Brian, it was a simple hit and run case. And then the defense took the case over, put on 4 witnesses, and the last 2 witnesses were paid by the federal government. And they were the experts from the ARCA Reconstruction Agency, and they were incredible. They were absolutely incredible. Science and physics won the race. And personally, I don't see how multiple jurors could say in their own heart they exceeded beyond a reasonable doubt. I just couldn't see how they could do that.
So there's got to be a time, too. I mean, the prosecution has already said it. How do you think it plays out second time around?
Second time around has always gone to the defense. One thing to keep in mind, 3,074 pages of documents containing exculpatory evidence was provided in this case. The defense didn't even tap into hardly any of it. Next time around, it's going to be completely different. The Commonwealth can't change their case. They put it all out there. The defense has a lot more evidence they will put on the table this time.
Yeah, and the way this goes is the defense will hire investigators. They will figure out who the jurors were, and they will try to strategize to figure out what they can change to get a full-on not guilty verdict. And they've got the benefit to do that now, which is going to be interesting. Sean McDonough, thank you so much for joining us.
All right. Oh, hello, Carolina. It's good to see you. So the other thing, too, this is also in reference to Proctor. I-Team sources tell, and this is reported by a reporter from WBZ, it says, Trooper Proctor has been transferred to Troop H of Massachusetts State Police. That's the Division of Field Services in South Boston. He has a pending duty status hearing, which could lead to a suspension and further action. So kind of what we already knew, but still kind of elaborates more about where he is at this point in his career. All right, so there was other things I wanted to share too. Let's see, what's next? Oh, this just never gets old for me. Remember when she's on the stand describing Karen at the scene? She's such a creepy woman, isn't she? I just feel like she was trying to sell her story so hard. And like, I've seen like memes or just screenshots of her like with her mouth open like that. And I like wrote on one of them in the group, like, when you can hear a picture just looking at it. And remember, she describes the horror and all that. And yet, when we hear her 911 call, she sounds calm as a cucumber. I loved and my friend, blah, blah, blah. But yet she refers to him as there's a man in the yard or there's a man in the snow or something like that. And it's like, she doesn't even refer to him by his name. She doesn't refer to him as my friend. She doesn't say there's an officer down. She calls him a man. And then when she's on the stand, she tries to play this whole like, he was my friend, the shock, the horror. Exactly, Valerie. Like, what are they going to do? Put her back up on the stand? I mean, she just is. She's not the best. She's not the best in the story. The horror, the terror, the shock. I can't do a Boston accent. But this is another group that I'm in. I really think this is a good point. I really do. Give me a second. Give me 1 second. Well, I'll leave this up on the screen. I'm hearing a little knock on my door. Let me just check. Okay. Little one was saying goodbye to me. She's going somewhere with her dad. Sorry about that. Okay. I really think that I can't believe it took so long for it to kind of make its rounds. This was posted 3 days ago in that Freekarenread Facebook group. Can a car pull a hoodie string? I think not. How this is not an indication of an altercation of some sort happening if law enforcement didn't pull it themselves, was this ever explained? If not, there's a reason it wasn't. So I'm not signed into Facebook, so that's why it has this stupid thing at the bottom. But just focus on the pictures. This is where the hoodie is that he was wearing that night. You can see the blood on the shirt. You can see that the hoodie string is pulled. It's still there, but it's not in both holes. So that leads us to question. Here's him on the CCTV footage at the bar before he goes to the house. How the heck does a car accident, because I don't think that his injuries were from a car accident. No, Jacqueline, no bathroom break yet. No. So pretty much he has both the strings coming out of his hoodie at the bar. And yet, again, like this poster says, unless they, pulled it themselves after they're removing it or, on his body or moving him, we need an explanation why all of a sudden the hoodie string isn't through both holes. Because it was here. Kind of goes back to the hat. For those who watch this, Valerie, I know you watched it very closely. It is weird, and I think that it's such a good point. It's the blood and vomit. He was upright at some point, right? And yet, okay, here's two things that we never really got clear indications on or explanations, whatever you want to call it. The hat, I know that they found it. And I know that it was near the flagpole, I believe. What state did it look like? Socks were apparently on the wrong feet too. Super weird. They had a left and right on the socks and they were flipped. Weird. So Valerie, the hat, when we get the picture of his clothing laid out, which I don't have it on my computer, but I might be able to show the camera. We were shown, obviously, his hoodie, like in this post here. Where is this picture? That's the thing is I got pictures of family and you know, your normal stuff that you have in your phone, and then I have like true crime pictures mixed in. Crap. Oh, wait, hold on. I sent it to criminality in our messages, so I'll just look in there. So these are the pictures that were presented in evidence. You know, his hoodie, his undershirt, his jeans. We spoke about the shoes. The hat that was found. Hey, yeah, let's unpack that. Good to see you. Got caught in the struggle. The hoodie string, yeah. There's no way he was laying down. Blood dripped down, and he definitely was upright. That's how I think. So the hat wasn't really laid out with all his other clothing. Now, if he was hit by the car, and they've said, like, well, the tail light hit him in the head, remember? It was the tail light. The tail light caused that contusion or gash or whatever you want to call it in the back of his head. So there should be blood on the hat, you would think. There should be something, unless they're theorizing, well, the force knocked the hat completely off his head. But how does the force knock the hat off his head and also cause the injury? Because you would think that it would cause the injury and then the hat. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out, like, what state did his hat look in? If there's no blood on it at all, that's weird. If there is blood on it, you know, I'd like to see that. Did anyone see that? Also, no way blood and more DNA on the vehicle. Right. Hey, Mayla's mom, good to see you. So does anyone have any inclination of what his hat looked like what state this hat was in at the scene? It was found outside. We know that. Did it have blood on it? If he's hit by the tail light and it causes that, you know, gash in his head, and that gash is what caused him to throw up. That gash is what caused his eyes to be so swollen. Remember? What state did the hat look like? I need pictures of the hat from the scene or in the evidence bag. Yeah, the hat is not going to jump off his head, so the injury can happen without involving the hat he is wearing. Right, it's not going to jump off his head. So he gets that gash in his head, allegedly from the tail light. So then how did the hat fly off? You know what I mean? I'm just confused where this hat kind of fits in with all this. It's one of those like little details that I get hung up on and I need an explanation. I'm just confused by it. So moving on, if anyone, you know, on replay has an explanation for it, please leave it down below because I just want to know. And again, if they shared a picture of the hat, you know, let me see it because I have not seen it. I've looked for his clothing. We've seen, you know, everything except the hat. And then I've also heard they didn't log it or something like that. Okay. So this was the statement that was made by the state police, the head of the Massachusetts State Police today. You guys might have already seen it. I sped it up so we can go through it a little bit quicker than 6 minutes. Now, this guy answers questions from the press, but you really can't hear what he's being asked. So sorry about that. It's not really anything we can do. The case tonight is the Karen Read mistrial verdict that came back. Decision, whatever you want to call it. I don't even know if you can call it a verdict. So let's just listen to what the head of Massachusetts State Police had to say about Trooper Proctor and his role in this mistrial for Karen Read.
Yeah, I think I've been very clear, and I want to remain very clear. Misconduct in any way, shape, or form of the Massachusetts State Police will not be tolerated. I think I've said that I condemn those comments in the strongest terms possible. They are not reflective of the Massachusetts State Police. That's not where we want to be as an organization. And I believe that we will certainly continue to monitor that as we are moving through the process of our internal affairs investigation. Again, due process, we are evaluating that, looking at it. We're going to continue to investigate it. We have, as you know, initiated an internal affairs investigation early on in this process. Part of that is to monitor the case that was ongoing. We wanted to make sure we had all the information available to us through the trial process. I also want to point out that that trial process currently is unresolved, and we have an open internal affairs investigation, so I'm not really in a place where I'm going to comment on that any further. I will say very generally that we monitored the criminal trial in an effort to get as much information as possible, as it may or may not reflect on members of the Massachusetts State Police and their conduct, and we wanted to make sure we had all of that before we.
So he's saying that they watched everything that happened in the trial. They wanted to see what was shared and presented. And then now they're going to conduct that hearing with Proctor and determine, where to go from here. And something that lawyer, if you guys watch him, Peter Tragos, I think his name is, he was reacting to this video and he pretty much was like stunned by that answer. Like he said, they've had the means to look into everything that was going on with Proctor in this whole case. They had it before we even had it as the public at the trial. So now all of a sudden he's trying to act like, well, we wanted to wait until everything came out and then, we'll take it from here. And, it's kind of just like, like you guys had the means to figure everything out beforehand. It's almost as if, and this is my opinion, they wanted to check and wait for the public backlash and public scrutiny and see what public opinion was on Proctor and everything that took place in the trial before they came out like kind of reprimanding him or acting like we have to put our foot down with this. Of course, that's just my opinion. Jay sort of pretty much agrees. He says typical of people in power. Yeah, they're like, oh, let's not bring light of it. Let's not talk about it. But, once the public is kind of outraged and we got our backs up against the wall, now we'll put our foot down and we'll just act like, well, we wanted to come out when everything came out at the trial. It's like, no, you had everything that you needed to have before the trial.
Made a decision. We also wanted to respect the trial process, and we want to be mindful of the ongoing internal affairs investigation.
So, you spoke about policies and procedures. What changes have been made or will be made to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again?
Yeah, we're going to continue to look at this, and we are hyper-focused on that right now. We have been in a process for the past.
Yes, Jay, exactly. If no one said anything, they do nothing. And if she was found guilty, what are they going to do? If she was found guilty, then it would almost back up everything that Trooper Proctor did. Like, oh, well, I guess he was right. He acted wrong, but he was right. And the jury saw that he was right in what he did. So let's just keep him on and move on with our lives. But it ends in a mistrial. And then now this head of Massachusetts State Police is like, okay, now we got to confront this situation. Of course, that's my opinion.
$16 months of evaluating places for improvement. We are very mindful that there are always improvements to be made on the Massachusetts State Police. We have drilled down and concentrated our efforts on 6 general areas, all that are reflective of what we do on a daily basis and how we are perceived in the public eye. We want to continue to make sure that we can provide the services to the public that they demand and deserve. Those areas where we're concentrating most of our efforts now are, I could break them down and say that in no particular order, community trust, legitimacy, and engagement, diversity, culture as a standalone issue for the Mass State Police, examining that both externally and internally, training, leadership and wellness, and media and public relations. Those are the areas that we're focusing on, have been focusing on for the past 16 months. Well, I think we're going to see additional scrutiny on all of these investigations as a result of what has come about in regards to the most recent trial, and we're prepared for that.
State Police lacks public confidence, and what do you see as your ability to address that? And related to that, what is the governor told you her expectations are?
Again, we really can't hear what the press is asking. The answers, though, are what are relevant. I just want to pause it for a second. Shea Benet says, well, what about the fact that the DA had all the same evidence provided by the feds as the defense and still forgoes this trial? Now they want another trial. It's ridiculous. It is. And they didn't allow that information in the trial from the federal investigation. So I'm curious, will that stuff be allowed in this next trial? And yeah, like that expert was telling Brian Enton in that news segment we watched from News Nation, the DA was told, like, I don't think you should try this case. Like, it's not suggested. And yet they followed through with it. And then they came down with a harder charge for her. This is all damage control that they are doing for optics. Right. And if they cared about high standards, these things wouldn't happen to begin with. People would know better, period. Right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe it was Higgins. I think it was Higgins, and he's ATF, so that's federal, not state. But Proctor was sending information to, I don't know if he was sending it to his bosses like Higgins was. Does anyone know that? Either way, his colleagues knew exactly what he was doing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's incumbent upon us to be in a continuous cycle of earning, maintaining public trust and legitimacy. That's we cannot do our job effectively without that. And we are hyper focused on being able to do that and conducting ourselves in a way that demonstrates that we can do that and that we are worthy of trust. And as we move forward in this organization, we will be mindful of that, and we will be making sure that we're all doing our very best to show the public that we can be what they need us to be.
Have you been in touch with the feds and seen their investigation?
I'm not in a position really to say anything about anybody else's investigation. I will tell you that we are still actively involved because there is a trial process ongoing, and we are certainly actively involved in the internal affairs process. Yeah, well, we have to take this head on. We have to be accountable to ourselves, to each other, to the residents and visitors of the Commonwealth. We have to look in the mirror. We have to be hyper focused on making sure that we are professional and that we are in a continuous cycle of evaluation and improvement and refinement. And we need to work very hard to engage the public in a more meaningful way so that we can understand what it is that we need to do and where we want to go in order to maintain trust, build trust, and in some cases regain it. And I believe that those 6 fundamental areas that we're pushing forward are going to help us do that. I'm confident of it. Yeah, I know we were involved in that in a variety of ways. That is a Worcester Police Department investigation. It would probably be better to ask that question of them. We were in a support role. It's a role we find ourselves in frequently, a resource provider and force multiplier for the Worcester Police Department.
But now we're in a situation where it's a team trial.
Right.
We anticipate taking action before the next trial, and will the action be taken against Michael Proctor, if any, are you concerned that that could have the impact we have?
Well, I think in regards to the action we took, yesterday, the important piece for us was to continuously monitor the trial, to take the information provided during the pendency of that trial in-house in order to make the decisions that we made. We made the decisions we made yesterday based on things that we learned during the trial process and in other ways. I can't speak to the impact that it may have moving forward. I know that for us as an organization, we wanted to make sure we took appropriate and decisive action when we had as much information that would allow us to do that, and we did.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so this was also shared on Twitter recently. Give me a second. It's from Sleuthy Goosey's Twitter, but it's a legit statement. It's not her opinion. Give me a second. So essentially, the blame is placed with the defense, according to the State Police Association of Massachusetts. Many shots fired here and none where they belong. That's what Sleuthy says. This is the statement from State Police Association of Massachusetts on a Karen Read trial and Michael Proctor. On behalf of 2,000 men and women who comprise the State Police Association of Massachusetts, our thoughts are with the O'Keefe family. The loss they have suffered is immense. We remain hopeful that justice will be served so the family receives the closure they deserve. This trial shined a bright light on our judicial process and the nuances of legal proceedings. It's also blurred the lines between fact and innuendo presented during a defense of the accused. So they're pretty much saying the defense team, blurred the lines between fact and innuendos presented during the defense of the accused. While the courts consider next steps, the focus has shifted to yesterday's disciplinary action against Trooper Proctor. It is our understanding that this discipline came as a result of the Proctor's private text message exchanges that were made public during the trial. We also understand that it has no relationship to salacious allegations of cover-ups, collusions, or conspiracies offered by the defense. The association is proud of the work our members do each day, as well as the fact that our Massachusetts homicide solve rate is the envy of the country. Interesting. At the same time, we must be clear that we do not condone the language used in the text messages presented as evidence during the trial. While these matters evolve, we remain committed to representing the interests of our members and will continue advocating for an educated, highly trained, and diverse workforce to serve the Commonwealth with pride and distinction. So they're pretty much saying the only thing that Trooper Proctor did wrong were his text messages. Now, the problem is a main text message for me. Not only were there, egregious things that he had said about Karen Read's, health conditions and looking for nudes. The main text message that really sticks out to me that came out at this trial was when he was texting somebody, I think a friend, and they said something along the lines of, oh, the owners of that house are going to catch some grief with, a dead person found in their yard. To which he responded with, nope. And that was, I think you guys brought it to my attention. It was just barely even a day into the investigation where he was saying nope. So why does that bother me the most? Because that pretty much shows us that he was already gunning for one suspect, one person in this whole storyline, which you guys saw. This came out, okay, so it was one of his high school buddies, right? So, he's being truthful, he's being himself because he's known this guy for so long, and this guy says, oh gosh, they're going to catch some grief, a dead person in their yard, like that's not good. And that's not the exact quote, but you guys know what I'm talking about. The point is, his exact quote back was nope. And now that is huge when it comes to somebody saying, I'm being railroaded, I'm being framed, I didn't do this. It has nothing to do with, him talking about her bowel movement problems or her MS or, oh, I'm disappointed I didn't find news, blah, blah, blah. Like those obviously were bad and shameful. But the main one and this whole statement that I just read is pretty much saying like everything that came out in those. This is on Sleuthy's Facebook or Twitter too, if you need to check it out. Sleuthy Goosey. Everything that came out with his text messages had nothing to do with the defense saying that things were corrupt and there was collusion involved, blah, blah, blah. Well, actually, you guys are bypassing that one word, nope, because that is huge. And that points to, hey, Roxanne, that points to 6 to 10 hours, I thought, one of those. Yeah, it was like, I thought somebody said 6. It doesn't matter because very early, even if it was week 1, if we found out that that text was sent in week 1, for me, I would still be like, that's suspicious. The fact that it was less than a week, that's even more suspicious. It pretty much goes to this whole, like, you had one person you went after. There were so many other people that were involved in that whole house situation, who were drinking, who were driving. And that's what he chose. That's the person that they chose to solely go after. And I get it. They were having arguments, they were having issues. She was texting with Higgins. It didn't look good. She didn't look like the loyal girlfriend in certain instances in this case. Let's be honest. Hey, Beach Bum, good to see you. Yeah, exactly, Shmita, and it's good to see you. They had tunnel vision. They had one, Proctor specifically had one objective, and that was to build his case framed around this one person who was involved with John that night. And there's so many other avenues that should have been explored. And just like Vinnie Politan said on his channel today, he had a really good stream if you guys want to check it out, that, from this point on, they need to finish that investigation in a means of, remember that he interviewed Colin Alberts, Proctor. He knew him previously, like had a personal relationship. He interviews him. Colin's phone was never taken for evidence. There was more people's phones that should have been taken. There were more people who, got rid of SIM cards and all that. Like, there's ways that they can still triangulate. This is coming from Vinnie Politan, who knows his shit, obviously. They can still triangulate where every single person was that night. They can go back and do what they did, like they did for Karen. They said that Commonwealth said that this happened at 12:45. Digital evidence showed she got to John's house in the Wi-Fi zone at 12:36. So then he shifts his timeline to saying that things happened, earlier. And it's like, this can't be like the truth, because you guys are flip-flopping it during the trial, your timeline. And digital evidence is what the jury will look at and hang their hat on. And we never got it with everybody in this case. So not only did he suggest they triangulate everybody's whereabouts who was at that house party that night, but he suggested the day that they do this whole repo of her car. Remember, the whole thing was, they took this pieces of the taillight once they had her car in custody, and then they brought it to the scene, and that's why they found it later after the body was moved and all that. So now what is being suggested, and this is from Vinnie, and I think everybody would agree, let's see Trooper Proctor's whereabouts on that day. Where was he when all this stuff was going on? So there's so much. And thank you, Jay, for being a member for 7 months. Proud to be here. Freekarenread. And Freekarenread and who killed John O'Keefe. Let's come out with it, because it just seems like a lot of people, and this isn't directed at you guys in chat or anybody who says Freekarenread, because I know Jay and I agree on this. So many are focused on, what's going to happen next in this mistrial, in the new trial. What are we going to find out? Will this be let in? Will that be let in? Blah, 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 blah. But nobody is asking who did this. Who do you think did it? It astounds me. Even during it, everyone was weird about Colin's time he left, 12:10, and Allie's slip up that she made about him being at the house. Right. Colin wasn't at the house when John was. Or Colin wasn't at the house when John was there. Something like that. It's like, so he was there. And then remember, another thing that kind of came out that was weird is in Jen McCabe's 911 call. Actually, let's go to Criminality's channel. I know she's got that. She says something along the lines, they said, how long has he been out in the snow? And she says, I don't know. He got out of the car a couple hours or something like that. And it's like, wait a minute. So he got out of the car? Because all we've ever heard her say was, I saw them outside and they were, talking. I called him and he never came inside and we didn't know what happened. So I think that little, and people can argue like, well, she was just assuming because that's what Karen told her. But was it, or did she actually see him get out of the car? Did she know he came in the house? And she's put on that spot at 911. So she says, oh, he got out of the car. I don't know, a couple hours. Just very weird. Then we find out also in that 911 call, it was either hers or Carrie's that they flipped him over. This whole time, haven't you guys kind of been under the impression he was laying there on his back? The phone was found underneath him. He was laying on his back, and everyone's like, why was the phone underneath him if he's laying on his back? Now it comes out that, in the 911 call, because nobody testified to this on the stand. Not one person said we flipped him over during the trial. But listening to the 911 call, that's stated that they'd flipped him over. Let's see. Caroline says, I think the victim was drunk and mumbled in front of the independent plow operator rushing to the plow gig. Drunken mumbles out of the way, almost gets whacked by corner of plow and rebar corner marker of plow. And that would kind of, explain why everyone's saying a vehicle didn't hit him. Because if it's a plow, yes, it's attached to a vehicle, but, maybe it was just not adding up. I don't know. I know that a lot of people do think that the plow was the one. And again, when we all ask who killed John, a lot of people do agree with you, Caroline, that it was a plow. Was it the plow attached to Higgins' Jeep? Was it, a random plow? We just don't know. Was it even a plow at all? Like, I'm really convinced that it was from an altercation, but I can't say that 100%, but I do lean that way. At first, if you guys watch the coverage here, it was kind of speculated in my mind. It must have been a plow. I don't know, Guy. How about holdouts on jury? Didn't think, huh? Bite marks, dog scratches on John. The Alberts have a dog. Prosecution say he was just ran over by Karen. And the jury wasn't buying it. Several experts say his arm injuries resemble a large animal scratches and bites. Yes. And to me, those experts were very reputable. They were convincing. They were confident. Even when Lally tried to kind of cross-examine some of the defense experts, specifically the IT guy, it was kind of laughable because he's like asking questions that aren't really like the right questions to ask. Even the IT guy was like, not sure what you're asking here. Or, I'm not really understanding. And then he would like move on. There was a part 2 where they were talking about the glass that was found. And the guy says, we did a couple experiments. It was an accident reconstruction guy for the defense. We did a couple experiments and we used a rocks glass and blah, blah, blah. And then the Lally gets up there and he's like, so what kind of glass was it? Was it a martini glass? Was it? And he's like, it was a rocks glass. It was like, Lally, did you not just hear him say it was a rocks glass? Like, I know for me, I bartended, so I knew exactly what a rocks glass was, but apparently Lally did not, or he wasn't listening. He's like stuck in his own questions. Yeah, he clearly doesn't understand tech. And I can't say that I do either, but I do believe the defense's tech experts was way more convincing, confident. I believe that those 227 searches were legitimate, and that's my opinion. Okay, so let's listen to this. Again, this comes from Criminality. I'll give it a thumbs up. I've followed her coverage on this. She will be going live shortly as well. So soon we'll be hopping off here and I'll probably be moderating over there. So let's listen to this 911 call and then we'll call it a night.
No, police is court line. What is your emergency?
Yes, I need someone to come to 34 Fairview Road in Canton, Mass. There's a man passed out in the snow.
There's a man passed out in the snow. And this man, she tries to, come up with these crocodile tears. Oh, he was a friend. I loved him dearly. But you're calling him a man to 911.
You're in Canton? Hold on. I'm going to transfer the Canton police. You called me. You're connected to Nolan, okay?
Yeah, I don't know why I did that.
It's the towers. That's right. Stay on the line.
I think he's dead. We need, you got to get here ASAP, okay?
I'm going to transcend line. I'm going to transfer to Ken.
I think he's dead. How would she know that? I mean, or who would, I don't know. I guess you would know, maybe. I guess you would know if somebody was dead, if you're looking at them and stuff, but just playing devil's advocate in her 227 searches, how long till you die in the cold? It's kind of interesting how she already is painting the narrative. I think he's dead. It could be nothing, could be something, could be nothing, right? Jen is too much for me. I know.
Okay. I know.
You could just hear Karen in the background too. He's dead. Just very distraught, natural sounding. To me, it never sounded fake when we hear Karen in chaos and distraught.
Where are the blankets? I don't see blankets, Terry.
911, what's emergency? Hey,
Yes, I need someone to come immediately to 34 Fairview Road, Canton, Mass.
What's going on?
There's a guy unresponsive in the snow.
In the snow at 34?
He passed out, yes. 34, the Albert resident, yes. I just pulled up and found him.
Okay, 34 Fairview?
34 Fairview, Canton.
Also interesting how she says, I just pulled up and found him. But yet during the trial, everyone was saying Karen was kicking the door. She was trying to get out before we even stopped the vehicle because she'd seen him. And that was a main point that the Commonwealth tried to point out for the jury, is like she knew exactly where John was in that yard before the car even stopped. 911 here is saying Jen said, I just found him. Something or nothing.
And Mass, yes.
911 is unrecorded. Where's your emergency? Hello?
Yes, I'm sorry. Can you come to 34 Fairview Road in Canton?
34 Fairview?
Yes, there's a man unresponsive in the snow.
Okay. Is he blue at all?
Yeah, you've got to get here, okay?
Okay. What's going on? Is he face down?
We just flipped him over.
Okay. And who's that in the background? Is that someone related?
Okay, that's his girlfriend. His name is John O'Keefe.
Okay, how old is he?
John is 46 years old.
46. How long has he been outside?
I don't know. I don't know. He got out of the car and...
He got out of the car and...
Is he breathing?
A couple of hours. Is he, Carrie? Is he? I don't know if he's breathing. There are two women trying to do his body heat, and they're hysterical.
Okay, can you just try to ask him? I know it's tough, but we already have the fire department going. They just got to know if he's breathing.
Is he breathing, you guys? It doesn't seem to be breathing.
Okay, do they know how to do CPR? Do they want to attempt CPR?
You guys, Carrie, get up. Can you guys do CPR? No, I guess he's gone.
Okay. They don't feel comfortable doing so?
No, I think he's passed away.
Okay. All right, we got the fire department and the police department on the way. If everyone's declining CPR, then I'll hang up with you, and if anything changes, you can give us a call back. Where are you guys outside?
Oh, right out front of his car. I know, I'm on the phone with the ambulance. I know, honey, I know. Look, Carrie, you got to get off him, honey. Carrie, you got to get off of him. This is a scene.
Do you know if there was any alcohol or drugs involved?
They had been out.
They've been out drinking?
Yes, but I'm talking hours ago, maybe. And I think I don't know how long he's been in the snow.
Okay. Is there any bleeding or anything? Maybe hit his head out?
Yes, possibly. There seems to be bleeding in the face.
Okay, bleeding from the face. All right.
Yes.
And how big's the pool of blood, if there is any?
Something's coming out of his nose, and one of the women is doing CPR.
Okay, one of them is...
Now, one of the main questions that everyone had asked is, where's all the blood? Where's all the blood? He lost, X amount of liters of blood or whatever people were quoting because of the wound. And yet we saw very little blood in the snow. And when this 911 guy says, how big is the pool of blood? She doesn't answer. He's bleeding out of his nose. One of the women are doing CPR. So that's key. Let's listen to that again.
big the pool of blood, if there is any.
How big is the pool of blood, if there is any? That's key. He has a huge gash on his head. There should be so much blood. She can't say. And they've flipped him over, so they've seen underneath him.
Something's coming out of his nose, and one of the women is doing CPR.
Okay, one of the women is doing CPR?
Yes, they're both working on him.
All right, if she's doing CPR, just let me, just give us a call back if he becomes responsive, right? But we're on the way.
Okay, thank you.
Let me say. What?
We'll just leave that there. Hello, Seth. I saw you pop in chat. Good to see you. Terry says if it was cold enough, it would stop from bleeding. Would it? Then where is all the blood coming from all over his clothing? Again, I'm not saying you're wrong. I've never heard that the cold stops blood from bleed. I guess it could freeze it. That's interesting. That's interesting. Something to keep in mind. I know, it's so terrifying. It's imprinted in my head. Like it's almost like the Johnny Depp trial when she's like pretending to cry about her dog getting stung by a bee. Like that's imprinted in my head. Like it lives rent free in my head. So does that of Jen McCabe, like on the stand describing Karen, and just with her dramatics of it all. I just can't. I can't let go of it. Okay, Plant Enchantress says the cold would reduce the amount of blood loss. That is something to keep in mind. Definitely. It can freeze. Yeah, there are so many moments from Depp trial in my head. Same. Jen McCabe is an evil biatch. I think so too. Hey, Missy, good to see you. All right, guys. So again, we have not heard the end of this case. We haven't heard the end of, the people involved in this case. The 22nd this month, 20 days, guys, 20 days. We are going to hear when the next trial will be. And it can freeze, but his level of alcohol would have worked as a thinner too. Oh, good point. There's a lot of little chemical reactions going on here too. That's a good point. It definitely would. It's just I need more information about the hat too. I need to know how much blood was on that hat. How does the hat fly off and land near the flagpole while he has this huge gash? Yes. Did you guys like it yet? Please do so. It's greatly appreciated. Good night, Seth. Thank you so much for popping in. He had a subdural hematoma, subarachnoid brain injury. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Bleeding internally in the brain and pressure of blood built in his skull. So that you think is like some avenues of where this blood kind of went? All right, guys. So that's the thing is I'm stuck on a lot of stuff. Yeah, the red Solo cups, shop and save, leaf blowers. And funny how the state police kind of have skimmed over all that. Like, oh, let's pretend none of that happened. But we won't forget. We're not going to forget it in the next trial either. Thank you to my moderators, Johnny, Valerie, Jay, Melly, Shabane, everyone, Pointer Lover, everyone that was here. Sherry, you guys are awesome. We're going to keep following this case. I had an idea with Jay that I discussed. Once they determine, I don't know how you guys are going to feel about this. Okay, good night, V Slims. Thanks for being here. I'll be here tomorrow night too, guys. Every night until my pregnancy is over, I'm really going to try to go live, except the weekends. I like to decompress. But Okay, that was according to the pharmacist says that was according to the ME testimony. Okay, thank you. So again, that was this right here is according to the ME. All right, so the idea that we had was when they determined the next date for the retrial, would you guys be interested? Because it's going to be months away from when they decide at the end of this month. Would you be interested in going through the trial again, streaming here, and I could have Jay and Valerie come up and anyone else who, really is knowledgeable in the trial. I just say them because I know that they've been very close with it all. And we can talk together through it. Shmita says yes. And Jay says, I thought it would be a good idea. Sherry says yes. And then we go back through while we wait for the new trial. We just kind of, because since I'm going live every night during the week, I need topics. I figured that would be something that we could do. Start over, have people up on panel, and we just kind of comment and go back over things, because this trial started very early in the morning. I'm not going to lie. Some of the testimonies, like, I was not even awake for. So if we go back through it, we can just get a different perspective, just be more knowledgeable in it for the next retrial, so that when we see this new evidence presented and when we see this trial again, we can say, wait a minute, what? They said this in the first one and now they're changing it to that. Or we can say, this is new. We didn't hear this before. Just stuff that we'll be on top of. So again, I really appreciate you guys. And Shay, of course, you're always invited. And we will be back here tomorrow night. It started at 6 a.m. for you, Val. And that's what I was saying to Jay. I was like, oh, poor girl, getting up so early for this trial all these weeks, ends in a mistrial. Now you got to do it all over again. Like, you better sleep these next few months while we wait, because you're going to need to catch up. But okay, guys, I appreciate you all. Join me here tomorrow night for another case discussion. So I just realized that Thursday is the 4th. I don't know. I don't know if I'll be going live on the holiday. I don't know. Oh, tomorrow's Cindy's birthday. Happy birthday, Cindy. So tomorrow night, maybe I'll do the Watts deep dive tomorrow night, since Thursday, the day we usually do it, will be a holiday. Or we could do Watts Friday night. No, because I wanted to do Madeline Soto's read through on Friday. Maybe we'll do Watts tomorrow night. Either way, join me tomorrow night and every other night during the week around this time. 7, 8, or 9 o'clock is when I usually go live, sometimes 8:30. So it's kind of all over the place depending on what it's like here at home with the little one and my husband. So thanks, everybody. Again, hit that like button. Join me here for other true crime discussions. And we'll talk very, very soon. And bye, Roxanne. Thank you so much for earlier today. You know what I'm talking about. The gambling team says Cash App. My Cash Apps, PayPal, Venmo, everything is in the description box. People keep asking, should I just, I don't know. I really don't have it on my screen like a lot of people do. I need to figure out how to do a banner. Like, I just paid for StreamYard where it doesn't say, I don't know if you guys have noticed, like up in the corner, usually would say StreamYard. That was like the free version. I've upgraded the channel and now I got to figure out how to use it. So maybe I'll do a banner of my Cash App. I don't know. Either way, everything you need as far as links will be in the description box. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow night. Anybody who donates, anyone who joins the channel, it's greatly appreciated. All I ask of you guys is just like and subscribe. And everything else is, obviously appreciated. But we'll talk tomorrow night. Thanks, guys. Okay. You want me to give the mods the links? Okay, I will do that right now. And you guys have a great night. See you tomorrow.